Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJ Tripp, and welcome to the top 10 sports dynasties in history. Now, what we're going to be looking at is that we're going to be looking at the dynasties of the four major sports: football, basketball, baseball, and even hockey, even though I'm not a big hockey fan. But I decided, but there were two that needed to be on this list because they were as dominant as could be. So they needed to be in this top 10, so we're gonna put them in. I couldn't deny them, so they're gonna be on this list. So we're just keeping it to the four major sports. We're not talking about any soccer. We're not talking about Olympics or anything like that, because obviously right now we got or anything like that, because like the women, even though this is not the Olympics, but the Women's World Cup is going on, and you could say they're a dynasty and some other things out there. Or we're not looking to talk about lacrosse or anything like that, because I think there's maybe a lacrosse team that won like 12 straight championships or something like that in the 80s or something like that. But that doesn't. But we're not going there. We're talking about football. We're talking about the NFL. We're talking about college football. We're talking about college basketball, baseball, and hockey. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Number 10, the Yukon Huskies women's basketball. The Yukon Huskies are the most successful women's basketball program in the nation, having won a record of 11 NCAA Division I national championships and a women's record of 4 in a row from 2013 through 2016, plus over 40 conference regular season and tournament championships. The Yukon women own the two longest winning streaks, whether talking about men or women, in college basketball history. The longest streak of 111 started with a win against Creighton on November 23rd, 2014, and ended on March 31st, 2017, when the buzzer beater at the end of overtime caused a 64-66 loss to the 2017 NCAA Final Four to Mississippi State. The second streak counts 90 consecutive wins, including two undefeated seasons, 2008, 2009, and 2009-2010, and was delimited by two losses against Stanford. The first on April 6, 2008, in the national semifinals of the NCAA tournament, and the second 3 seasons later on December 19 in 2010. UConn's current head coach, Gino Auriemma, who joined the team in 1985, is one of the best coaches in college basketball history. His 1,062 wins and 139 losses, an 884 percentage record as of May 2019, represents the highest winning percentage among NCAA basketball coaches with a minimum of 10 seasons of any level, men or women, while ranking him third in all-time women's wins behind former Tennessee head coach Pat Summitt and current Stafford head coach Tara Van Devere. So here's what they won. They won one in 95, 35-0. They won one in 2000. And then they won one in 2002, 39-0, undefeated. They won one in 2003. They won one in 2004. And they came back and they won one in 2009, being undefeated, 2010, and being undefeated. And then recently, when they had Breanna Stewart, they won one in 2013, 2014, undefeated, 2015, and 2016, undefeated. So I mean, come on, let's get real. Without a doubt, under the guise of Gino Auriemma, starting in 1994 up until the current history, the Yukon women's basketball is deserving of a top 10 spot of the top 10 sports dynasties of all time. So number 10, the women's Yukon Huskies basketball team. Number 9, The UCLA men's basketball team from 1964 to 1975. The UCLA Bruins were led by Coach John Wooden during that time, in which he led the Bruins to 10 national titles in 12 seasons from 1964 to 1975, including 7 straight from 1976 to 1973. UCLA went undefeated a record 4 times in 64, 67, 72, and 73. And as we know, some of these were led by great players such as Lou Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and of course Bill Walton. They took a 47-game winning streak into the Astrodome in Houston, where Alcindor squared off against Elvin Hayes, called the Game of the Century, in January of 1968, which was the nation's first nationally televised regular season college basketball game. Houston upset LA 71-69 behind Hayes' 39 points. They did everything in that game right. Houston did to win. With so much other stuff going on, with 4 perfect seasons, 10 out of 12 years winning the championship, there is without question that the UCLA Bruins of the 60s and the 70s deserve to be on this list. Number 9, the UCLA men's basketball team of the 60s and 70s. Number 8, the 1980s Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers were officially founded in 1971 by W.D. Wild Bill Hunter and Dr. Chuck Allard. The team played its first season in 1972 as one of the 12 founding franchises of the Major Professional League World Hockey Association. They were intended to be one of the 2 WHA Alberta teams, along with the Calgary Broncos. However, when the Broncos relocated to Cleveland, Ohio, before the WHA's first season began, the Oilers were renamed the Alberta Oilers. They returned to their current name the following year and subsequently joined the NHL in 1979 as one of the 4 franchises absorbed through the NHL merger with the WHA. After joining the NHL, the Oilers went on to win the Stanley Cup on 5 occasions: 83-84 season, 84-85 season, 86-87 season, 87-88 season, and the 88-89-90 season. Along with the Pittsburgh Penguins, they are tied for the most championships won by any team since the NHL-WHA merger, and also most won by any team that joined the league in or after 1967. Among all NH teams, only the Montreal Canadiens have won Stanley Cup more times since the league's 1967 expansion, and we'll hear more about the Canadiens a little bit later. For their success in the 1980s, the Oilers teams of this era have been honored with dynasty status by the Hockey Hall of Fame. And this is a team that had many great players. They had the greatest of all time, Wayne Gretzky. They had Mark Messier. They had Paul Coffey. They had Yari Curry, among many other players to play along over those 7-8 seasons in which they won 5 Stanley Cups. So without question, there's no doubt in my mind that even though I'm not a big hockey guy, this list would be null and void if I did not put the 1980s Edmonton Oilers on this list. And they are at number 8. The Edmonton Oilers of the 1980s. Number 7, the 2000s Los Angeles Lakers. Before the 1999-2000 season, Jerry West was prepared to hire Kurt Rambis as the team's full-time head coach, before an outcry from fans and members of the organization caused him to seek out a bigger name. Former Chicago Bulls coach Phil Jackson, who had led that team to 6 championships in 8 years. He brought along his famed assistant Tex Winter and his triangle offense. They brought in guys like Brian Shaw, John Sally, Ron Harper, and brought back AC Green, who was a Laker during the Showtime era, for their new induction for this team. They also moved into the Staples Center. Led by league MVP Shaquille O'Neal, the Lakers won 31 of their first 36 games. They finished with a 67-15 record, the highest win total since they won 65 in the 86-87 season. They eliminated Sacramento and Phoenix in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. And they take a 3-1 game lead in the Western Conference Finals against Portland. After the Trailblazers won the next 2 games, the Lakers, who had trailed by 15 points in the fourth quarter, would go on a 19-4 run to tie the game and eventually win 89-84 to advance to the NBA Finals. Their first trip to the Finals since 1991. Then they defeated Reggie Miller and Indiana Pacers 4-2 to win their first title since 1988. In the offseason, they signed Horace Grant. Then in the following season, even though they won 11 fewer regular season games, they swept the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, defeating Portland, Sacramento, and San Antonio. They then went on to meet Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia 76ers in the finals. And even though the Sixers took Game 1 in overtime, the Lakers won the next 4 games to win their second straight title. Their 15-1 postseason record is the best in NBA history. The next year, they won 58 games. In the playoffs, they swept Portland. They defeated San Antonio 4-1 to advance to the Western Conference Finals to face Sacramento. The series would go on to be known as one of the greatest playoff matches in NBA history. The series extended to all 7 games and ended with a Lakers victory. They then went on to meet the New Jersey Nets and Jason Kidd, in which they achieved a 3-peat by sweeping those New Jersey Nets. Shaquille O'Neal won each of the Finals Series MVP awards, making him the only player besides Michael Jordan to win 3 consecutive Finals MVPs. And let's not forget that a couple of years later, they went on to have a great season in which they fought the Detroit Pistons. But they would lose that series to Detroit in 5 games, mainly because of the distraction of the sexual assault case by Kobe Bryant. So, going to 4 NBA Finals, winning 3 straight, without question, the 2000s Los Angeles Lakers, number 7 on my list of the top 10 sports dynasties of all time. Number 6, the 1950s Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens have won the Stanley Cup more times than any other franchise. They have won 24 Stanley Cup, 23 of them since the founding of the NHL, and 22 since 1927, when the NHL teams became the only ones to compete for the Stanley Cup. On a percentage basis, as of 2014, the franchise has won a quarter of all Stanley Cup championships contested after the Challenge Cup era, making it the second most successful professional sports team of the traditional 4 major sports of the Canada and United States, behind only the Boston Celtics. The Canadiens also had the most championships by a team of any of the 4 major North American sports until the New York Yankees won their 25th World Series in 1999. The reason why the 1950s Canadiens are on this list rather than the ones of the 60s and the ones of the 70s is because the Canadiens won 5 in a row from 1955 to 1960, part of going to 8 straight trips to the Stanley Cup Finals in that stretch. 8 straight trips. That is why the Canadians, the 1950s, gives this dynasty the slight edge over that Montreal team that put off a four-peat in the 1970s. From 1975 to 1979, to be exact. Therefore, number 6 on this list of the top 10 sports dynasties of all time, the Montreal Canadiens of the 1950s. Number 5, the 2000s Alabama football Crimson Tide. The Crimson Tide have won 5 national championships in the last 10 seasons under Nick Saban, a run that includes 5 straight appearances in the college football playoff. The Tide have put a stranglehold on the SEC with 5 conference championships in that process, and there's no end in sight. There are other dynasties at the collegiate level, including North Dakota State in the FCS and Mount Union in Division III, but none have proven to be bigger than Alabama. And without question, one of the great dynasties of all time, one of the great coaches of all time in Nick Saban, deserving to be number 5 on this list of the top sports dynasties of all time, the 2000s Alabama football team. Number 4, 1980s 49ers. There are many reasons why the 1980s 49ers deservingly to be on this list. They had some of the great teams of that era, but they also had some of the great players as well. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, just to name a few, Roger Craig, and many more. They won 4 Super Bowls in the 80s, including back-to-backs in 88 and 89. There was a time when the offense was getting all of the stuff, but and all of the press, but the defense was just as good. And it all started in the 81 playoff game with the catch. Montana to Dwight Clark. They twice beat the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins. And they also defeated John Elway and the Denver Broncos by a staggering amount. After Bill Walsh decided to he decided to leave the squad, and George Seifert took over. That was the season, and they still won. So, without question, a top dynasty of all time. He's number 4 on my list. The 1980s 49ers. Number 3, the 2000s New England Patriots. Now, the reason why the 2003 New England Patriots, the 2000s New England Patriots are on this list at 3 is really because of not because of the championships. Listen, they've won 6 titles. That's something that cannot be taken away. It's something that is amazing and good for them. But really, I think we're talking about the domination of the AFC since 2001, right? So let's take a look at the AFC East. Since 2001, they've won it in 2001, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008 when Brady got hurt, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And their conference championships: 2001, 2003, 2004, 2007, 2011, 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2018. My heavens. I mean, and this has all been under the watch of head coach Bill Belichick and quarterback Tom Brady. And of course the owner, Robert Kraft, in which they have been the mainstays of that since since the dynasty began. So to win, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, to win 16 division championships, and to win 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and to win 9 Super Bowl champion, to win AFC titles over that time. It's been incredible to see. It's been incredible to see. They are 6-3 in the Super Bowls, only losing to Eli Manning, New York Giants twice, and the Philadelphia Eagles. What can you say? Sure, their main dynasty, you could more than likely say, came when they won 3 out of 4, 2001, 2003, and 2004, and they've won 3 out of the last 6 in 2014, 2016, and 2018. But I must say, the dominance of the AFC is the reason why they are on this list. Without question, number 3 dynasty of all time, the New England Patriots of the 2000s. Number 2, the 1960 Celtics. With Bill Russell, the Celtics advanced to the 1957 NBA Finals and defeated the St. Louis Hawks in 7 games, the first of a record 17 championships. The Celtics advanced again to the NBA Finals, this time losing to the Hawks in 6 games. However, with the acquisition of Casey Jones that year, the Celtics became a dynasty that would last for more than a decade. In 1959, the Celtics won the NBA championship after sweeping the Minneapolis Lakers, their first of their record 8 consecutive championships. During that time, the Celtics met the Lakers in the finals 5 times, starting an intense and often bitter rivalry that spanned generations. In 1964, the Celtics became the first NBA team to have an all-African-American starting lineup. On December 26, 1964, Willie Knowles replaced an injured Tommy Heinsohn, joining Tom Satch Sanders, Casey Jones, Sam Jones, and Bill Russell in the starting lineup. The Celtics defeated the St. Louis Hawks 97-84. Boston won its next 11 games with Knowles starting in place of Heinsohn. The Celtics of the late 50s and into the 60s are widely considered as one of the most dominant teams of all time. Red Auerbach, their head coach, retired after the 1965-66 season, when Bill Russell took over as player coach. With his appointment, Russell became the first African-American coach in any U.S. pro sport. Auerbach would remain the general manager, a position he held well into the 1980s. However, the Celtics' string of NBA titles ended when they lost to the Sixers in the 1966 Eastern Conference Finals. The aging team managed 2 more championships in 68 and 69, defeating the Lakers each time. Bill Russell retired after the 69 season, effectively ending a Celtics dynasty that had garnered an unrivaled 11 NBA titles in 13 seasons. The team's run of 8 consecutive is the longest championship streak in U.S. professional sports history. And it's also the reason why it is number 2 on our list of the greatest sports dynasties of all time. The 1960s Boston Celtics. And of course, the number 1 dynasty of all time, the 90s Chicago Bulls. Now, some may ask, why the 90s Bulls over the 60s Celtics? Well, I would be lying to you if I didn't admit that a little bit could have to do with bias, without question. I am from Chicago. I am a Bulls fan. So obviously, this was a big time when I was growing up. So of course, they mean a lot to me. I put that out there in the open. However, with that being said, I do feel that there are just some things there that, even if I was not from Chicago, I think you would say, well, the Bulls dynasty would be number 1. One, it involved the greatest player in basketball history. It involved maybe the greatest athlete in sports history in Michael Jeffrey Jordan. It involved the greatest team in sports history, the 1995-96 Chicago Bulls, who won 72 games. And even though the Golden State Warriors won 73, they could not complete it by winning the championship. The Golden State Warriors would have completed that season and won the championship. Not only would I have said that the Golden State Warriors would be the best team of all time, but the Golden State Warriors dynasty would be on this list. As you can see, the Golden State Warriors dynasty is not on this list. It's not. And some might say that they may deserve to be on it. But winning 3 out of 4 years, going to 5 consecutive NBA championships, NBA finals, I should say, they may well deserve it. But I think, without question, that the Bulls are number 1. It started off in 1991, defeating Magic Johnson and the Lakers 4-1. After the Lakers won the first game, the Bulls, to come back, they made a change. They put Scottie Pippen on Magic Johnson. And all of a sudden, they won 4 straight, winning the title in Los Angeles. In 92, defeating the Portland Trailblazers 4-2. Starting a riot here in Chicago. That was kind of a scary time for those in Chicago after that riot. And then, of course, the first three-peat with going over to Michael, throwing it over to Horace, and then Paxson for 3, got it. Beating Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns 4-2 for their first three-peat. And then after a 2-year hiatus, which I'll get to in a second, for Michael to come back and prove that he was the greatest, without doubt, that he was not only the greatest of all time, that his Bulls were the greatest dynasty of all time. Coming back, winning in 95-96 those 72 games, defeating the Seattle Supersonics 4-2. The next year, winning 69 games and going on through the playoffs and beating the Utah Jazz 4-2. And then, of course, in 98, after being down big in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pacers, making a comeback, winning, and moving on to the NBA Finals to face the Jazz once again, beating them 4-2 with that shot, push off or not, over Byron Russell with the hand hanging up there. 6 out of 8 years. Chicago Bulls, a dynasty of all-time greatness. And there are many out there that believe that if Michael did not retire and go play baseball for those 2 years, that we would be talking about an 8-peat. We would be talking about not only the Celtics, but the Bulls winning 8 straight. And I think that is an argument that none of us will ever know. Because listen, the New York Knicks, they were good that 94 year. They were good that 94 year. We know how good the Magic was the next year in 95. In fact, they beat the Bulls. They beat the Bulls in the semifinals, and that was, of course, Michael had came back. He wasn't really himself. He wasn't in basketball shape. But they beat the Bulls in 95. And then there was, and then we're talking about, the Western Conference with the Houston Rockets, right? Could they beat the Houston Rockets? Because Olajuwon was on his game, and he had all those great role players: Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Vernon Maxwell, Robert Horry, Otis Thorpe, Clyde Drexler, 95. Who knows? Who knows what could have happened? And let's also not forget that Michael and Scotty, after the 92 season, went and did the Dream Team. And that 93 year, it was a struggle for them. It was one of the reasons why the New York Knicks had the best record in the Eastern Conference. So that in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bulls were on the road. In fact, they lost the first 2 games to the Knicks in New York. So that next year, that 94 year, like I said, the Knicks were great that year. And who knows what could have happened. They could have beaten Michael if Michael had stayed in 94. But with all that being said, 6 out of 8 championships, a 6-0 record. The greatest team in sports history, the greatest player of all time. The #1 dynasty. Without question. No doubt. Bias included. Of the 1990 Chicago Bulls. So there you have it. My top 10 sports dynasties of all time. As always, I always implore you to give me your list down in the comment section or do your own video. And make sure you come back and you put your video down in the comment section so that I can see it. Link it with mine, and then you can always do your own video. So please, let's start a conversation. Who do you think? Do you agree with my list? Would you have some other people on there? Let me know down in the comment section. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJ Tripp signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there, and I am out.